It's...
Oh, jolly good. It's Total Party Skills Flying Circus Variety Hour.
Well, hey folks, it's your old pal King Waspinator. Welcome back to Total Party Skills. I'm sure you're getting tired of hearing my political hot takes, so I guess I should make a video that's somewhat nerd and gaming geek related. So we got 3 topics to go over in brief. These will include my thoughts of the ending of Dune 2 and how it diverges from the ending of the original Dune novel. We'll talk a little bit about the Dungeons & Dragons new stamp series coming out from the post office. But first, I guess we should just do like a little hot take on how nerd culture sucks. Going back at least to Gen X, probably not too much earlier than that. But we've all been kind of raised in a media environment where there's a lot of messaging that encourages you to not grow up. That you're supposed to cling on to your childhood imagination, and not forget how to dream. Because adults are boring, mundane, and icky, and you don't want to be that. Now, prior to my generation being around, most people were expected that once you reach a certain age, not even adulthood, but like sometime while you're still in your teen years, that you're supposed to start shedding your childhood fandoms. You're not supposed to keep watching cartoons, you're not supposed to keep reading comic books, you're not supposed to keep collecting toys. Adult sports are okay. And if you want to switch over to like reading real novels, typically written by some Russian dude, and, about real world problems and world war thinking, that's, maybe a light murder mystery or something. But you're not supposed to still be reading books about spaceships and unicorns and shit. But with our generation, they really hammered the idea in a lot of kids' entertainment that growing up is bad. That's why I like to call us the Lost Boys generation as opposed to Generation X. And not Lost Boys as in a reference to the movie The Lost Boys, but Peter Pan's followers, all the kids he kidnapped and took to Neverland so that they would never grow up. And now this philosophy has been further expanded and commercialized because, it's certainly profitable for companies, especially in the entertainment business, to have adults with adult money who are still into watching their products and purchasing merchandise and all that kind of stuff, and indoctrinating their kids into liking the same old stuff they liked when they were kids. I mean, isn't it weird that as a generation we would go on to basically make our children like Star Wars whether they wanted to or not because we liked Star Wars and Transformers and G.I. Joe and on and on and on, whereas our parents, they weren't trying to get us to get into Howdy Doody or Bozo the Clown or whatever kind of lame-ass trash children's entertainment they had when they were kids. And how much does that feed into the psychology of the modern adult nerd? Intelligent, but kind of inflated in their ego about that intelligence. Very thin-skinned, always on the lookout for being bullied or insulted. Quite willing to be a bully or insult other people in response. Sometimes preemptively. Struggling to form adult relationships and having adult friendships based on anything more than just a mutual love of Wolverine. I certainly am just as much a victim, you could say, of this cultural trend as anybody else that I'm talking about. But it also leads to this sad fact that, at least judging by how people talk on the online spheres, on your Twitters, on your Instagrams, on your YouTubes, a lot of the TTRPG creators in specific, because after all, we're the ones who are supposed to be setting the tone for everyone else, right? More so that you can blame the casual viewers or even the people who leave comments. It's the creators, both of video content or the actual book content that video content is based upon, sometimes both. But seriously, are there any left that aren't also themselves just over-emotional, hyper-reactionary giant children who never grew up and don't know how to behave in a proper adult, calm, logical fashion? And since nerd culture has been artificially spread by corporate media because Well, the built-in audience allows them to build, buzz for free because there's already people who talk about it online no matter what and spread knowledge of the brand and interest in the brand. And because they're emotionally dependent upon the brand, they can get away with doing quite a lot of things to that brand and still maintain their numbers, especially if they can potentially bring more people in out of curiosity. There's a wall to that, obviously, as is encountered by Dungeons and Dragons or Star Wars in recent years. But, all these companies are patient and are willing to camp things out and wait for the current brouhaha to pave over. And then they'll just start all over again with another round of nostalgia bait and adults who are kids right now teaching their kids to also like Star Wars and He-Man, just like they did when they were brats. As I said, I'm just as much a part of this phenomenon as anyone else I'm talking about. But, there are just times where I just find the whole thing distasteful. There is a reason why I quit the entire nerd genre for almost a decade after going to a Magic the Gathering tournament in the late 90s. Because nerds fucking suck. Because they haven't grown up and they're all over-emotional and hyper-reactionary. Can't be good winners, can't be good losers. There's like no middle ground. And why would there be? Because you're in your 40s and you're still playing with toys like a toddler. And you think that's okay. It's a really fancy toy. It's like hyper detailed and very articulate. And it's art, guys. I just like to look at it. Leave it on my desk and look at it. I'm not actually playing with it. Now, I'm not suggesting that I'm about to make any sort of dramatic change or that you should make any sort of dramatic change. I just think that if we are the smart little boys and girls that we like to say we are, then we should be able to exercise a little bit of self-discipline and think about what the fuck we're saying and thinking and feeling before we go blasting all over the internet with shit. Both ends of the spectrum do this in their own different ways. Between RPG Pundit having the arrogance to think that the UN gives a shit about his tweets about Israel, or Grim Jim thinking he has the profound wisdom to be able to prognosticate the political future of all America because a steak salesman is running for president. And everyone's freaking out that a game show host might become president again. Famously, Hitler was known for hosting game shows, selling steaks, running casinos. It's so fucking Hitlerian. I can't believe no one's been able to see it this whole time. Just something to consider. Though when you find yourself becoming upset with things that have nothing to do with you, and especially if those things are based over childhood entertainment brands that you happened to like when you were 8, just stop a moment and consider how old you are and what the fuck you're doing. No one's saying to stop watching the shows you like or stop playing the games you like. Just dial things down a little bit. That's all I'm asking.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
First of all, what went through my mind is how stupid am I to actually volunteer for this? It was unbelievably painful.
Now return to our program in progress.
So Dune 2, I'm kind of amazed that you don't really hear more about it, but its ending, while mostly the same as the ending of the Dune novel, it does have a radically different tone because of how they decided to end it, with Chani just taking off to go be angry in the desert. And by collapsing the timeline a bit so that Aaliyah hadn't been born yet, and all that kind of stuff. They're just plowing through like a couple years worth of timeline over the course of a 2-hour movie. Well, I guess a 3-hour movie if we want to be accurate. The thing is I don't necessarily disagree with how this ending is. It fits tonally. It makes sense. It's not bad. I'm not saying it's a worse ending. I'm just saying it's a different ending in how it leaves you feeling. And I think some of this is because of, modern fears of modern audiences not understanding what was meant by the book ending with saying we will be remembered as wives. Somehow this is some sort of dismissive patriarchal statement that, oh, Jessica and Chani can be nothing better than just the wives to their men. No, the thing is that, this was being stated after, Paul is, gonna marry Princess Irulan in order to be able to secure the throne for himself through marriage, a political marriage, but he has no plans on ever sleeping with her or being in love with her. She is just a tool for him to get power, right? And that in history, much like how Lady Jessica is remembered as, the beloved partner of the Duke Leto Atreides, and not just his slut concubine, likewise, in future history, Chani will be the one remembered in history, as the honored lover of Paul Muad'Dib, and not his slut concubine. It will be known in history that Irulan is only there purely for political ends, that she is a prop who gets to sit around and enjoy life and write history books and such, but is otherwise shut out from being a central part of the story, both literally in how the book is written and figuratively within the setting and how things will be remembered. And that's, I guess that could be considered disempowering to women. I don't know. But who am I to judge? I have a penis, so how could I ever possibly relate to or interpret how women might feel about things? And this is supposition, of course, but I feel as if changing the end of Dune because of fear of people not interpreting that correctly just does a disservice to everyone. It does lead into Dune Messiah better, and you hear that they're doing pre-production already on Dune 3. But considering how much they compacted time events, I would have thought seriously that they would have taken the opportunity to just go ahead and have that 2-year jump in the story that occurs in the book happen in between the movies. But instead, the second movie just picks up right off where the first one ended. Really, it's just a 5-hour-long movie that was filmed separately from itself and cut in half. There's not even really much anything to say of like a previously on Battlestar Galactica segment of anything. That, to get someone who didn't see Dune 1 but decided to check out Dune 2 because of hype over Dune 1, they're not going to know what the fuck's going on because the movie just jumps right into shit. So, like I say, I don't consider it a bad change. It makes sense within the context of how the movie was presenting the story and events. But it was, I view, an unnecessary adjustment based on paranoia of a reaction that hadn't happened yet. It's not like David Lynch's Dune ended with that line from the book anyway. Of course, David Lynch's Dune diverges from the Dune novels and quite a few other dramatic tones beyond that. I'm just shocked that more, Dune fans aren't a little bit, what about it, There's very little chatter about that change at all. Did everyone fall asleep before they get to the end of the movie and they just didn't notice? Are you antsy to I gotta get out of here and go pee? Or is it just that most of the people watching the movie never actually bothered to read the book? Who knows?
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. now return to our program in progress.
Anyway, we know why you're really here. You want to hear about D&D's new stamps. So, take it away. So I figured I'd be a little remiss if I didn't read the blurb that came in this magazine that talks about these stamps. Playing the long game, celebrating a pastime that has sparked imaginations and friendships for half a century. As a child, Dante Santos relished the chance to lose himself in elaborate fantasy worlds, and now he earns a living doing exactly that. A former engineering team lead for Microsoft, he's now a professional dungeon master. Who guides players through richly imagined games of Dungeons & Dragons. The highest number of active games I've had going concurrently is 11, he says. It's a bit like trying to write 11 fantasy novels at the same time. Known by the familiar abbreviation D&D, Dungeons & Dragons celebrates its 50th anniversary this year. Santos says he and other longtime players see this pane of stamps as a welcome sign that they've reached the mainstream. We did it, guys! We're fucking mainstream!
Do you hear that, Spudsvik Waspinator? We fucking went mainstream! We're fucking mainstream!
Forever changing perceptions of what tabletop gaming can be, D&D invites players to collaborate by telling open-ended stories guided by books, dice, and their own imaginations. Dungeon masters like Santos oversee the whole experience, describing the setting, inventing obstacles for the players, and playing the roles of people and creatures encountered along the way. Some adventures may be played in a single sitting, but it's not uncommon for friends to play an ongoing D&D campaign together for months or years at a time. To convey the game's dynamic storytelling, art director Greg Breeding made sure the stamps depicted intriguing snippets of scenes. An adventurer gets lost in a maze, a fiery-haired woman bathes in dragon's blood, and on the selvage, a band of companions stands ready to battle a roaring dragon. Taken together, these stamps feel like tiny postcards from another realm. Santos says they invoke the nostalgic thrill of being a kid about to discover D&D. That sounds hot. They absolutely capture that high fantasy, that sense of adventure, he explains. The selection of imagery across the board is absolutely perfect for people like my 12-year-old self. Yes, we should all get in touch with our 12-year-old selves, and you could do so with D&D stamps and notebooks. $50 for some personalized notebooks that got, like, lines in them and charts that you can fill in, because that hasn't been a thing that you can buy on the cheap. Finally, for only $50. Field notes. Look at that. You get tiny little picture of a stamp on the cover of your field notebook. It's fucking amazing, bro. And can't you wait to use the classic post office system of mailing to send a $33 note card to a friend to invite them to come play D&D with you? Our civilization is a joke, and the best case scenario is for the barbarians to come and take over. And on that note, stay waspinated. I'm King Waspinator, and I approve this message. And oh, while I still have you here, if you're looking for more of a tongue-in-cheek version of the Star Trek stereotype, might I suggest We Want Soviet Men, where you can play as comrades on your comrade starship exploring the stars. It's a source book for Escape from Planet Matriarchy, the very first original Total Party System rulebook, where players take on the roles of 20th century astronauts who are shot 500 years into the future to crash land on the moon of Titan to discover the nightmare society that has evolved there. Both of which can be found in the Vintage Future RPG, available now on Amazon.com in print or Drive-Thru RPG for a PDF.